everyone, my name is Roisin Liu, and today I want to present to you our final presentation for ECS 430 in Group C. So I hope you enjoy. Let's delve into it. So we're looking at IDEA again, and more importantly about FAPE and LRE for the policy choice. So we're going to be looking at why policy still shapes access, inclusion, and educational opportunity for millions of students with disabilities. So let's move on to the next slide. Our table of contents is going to cover what is IDEA, why did I choose this policy, how has it changed over time, so really looking at the roots and the challenges, what do I want to advance in this policy proposal, and then the sources and the thank you slide. So what is IDEA? IDEA is the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. It was founded in the 70s, and it's a federal law that guarantees students with disabilities the right to free, appropriate public education, or FAPE, in the least restrictive environment, LRE, possible. FAPE and LRE kind of came later on, which if we want to move on to the next slide, let's do that. I will discuss more about kind of the roots of IDEA as we keep continuing. But why did I choose this policy? Let's put a halt on like the actual contents of this presentation and more about the motivation behind me choosing this. I love learning about special education. I've always had special education embedded in my life since I was little. My older brother is on the autism spectrum. He cannot talk. There's just kind of some disconnect between the thoughts that are the beautiful, strong thoughts that are going on in his brain and his mouth. And so being a part of the special needs and autism community have always been integral to my life. So I've grown up in Special Olympics in that community and gotten to know a lot of my brother's friends and the other competitors there. Those in the classroom, I've been like an au pair for my brother in Special Olympic skiing and Special Olympic swimming, which has been wonderful. It not only like helps them, it helps my brother, it also helps me become a better athlete as well and understand how to work with and understand people who don't have the same kind of brain as I do, a different level of neurodivergence, it's kind of cool. And I want to help these students and individuals because those with special needs don't have as many equal rights as the rest of the population, strictly on a disability basis. Of course, we can delve into racial equality and equality in access to free healthcare and stuff. There's a lot of different ways that equality can be shown in policy or the lack of, but this time we'll be focusing on disabilities. And second of all, I want to advocate for my brother when he cannot, because he physically cannot talk. So let's move on to the next slide. How has this policy changed over time? Roots and challenges. This is what I was talking about with LRE and FAPE not quite existing before, when IDEA had first come around. So IDEA grew from parent advocacy and accountability demands, driven by an organized movement of parents of children with disabilities. So it began in the 70s and then developed with changes such as FAPE, LRE, and EHA over time. One of the challenges is that with nearly 15% of students ages 3 to 21 receiving services under IDEA, the policy affects millions of families and educators across the nation. There's a massive funding gap and implementation challenges that make this a critical time for advocacy. This is not only in the funding gap, but also within there's something called IEP meetings. So it's, personalized for the individual student who needs different needs than your quote unquote average student. And it is very, very, the courts and the state system make it very difficult for students with special needs to gain access to these rights. So funding cuts don't help either. What do I want to advance in this policy proposal? Let me tell you what my advocacy plan is first. There should be a better understanding of IDEA rights, specifically for FAPE and LRE among families of students with disabilities, particularly those who are early in the IEP process and may not know yet how to navigate it. It is a lot of coordination between talking to the courts, making sure you have your documents in order, day-to-day things with your child and student who is going through the process, working with teachers, faculty members, lawyers. It's a lot of work. So making sure that that education is there and they're not just blindly figuring it out. And the plan is to create a family-facing resource guide, a clear, accessible pamphlet written in plain language and also translated into Spanish because we have a lot of Spanish speakers in the United States. I would also argue maybe French and Chinese as well as other languages to have. That explains what FAPE and LRE mean, what families have the right to ask for during IEP meetings, and what steps they can take if they believe their child's needs are not being met. And these are the resources that I used, not only my paper, but also for this presentation. So thank you again for listening. I am so excited for all of you to keep moving forward in your education career. You are going to do incredible things. And last slide, thank you so much. Please take care of yourselves. Bye.